Yes, that song again.
Yes.
I'm not going to make any comment today. Now we're going to be looking at the Nigeria Prize for Science 2016. It underwent review. You may have noticed that it was quiet for a few years, and it's been reconstituted and it's back this year. The inauguration of the advisory board led by Professor Suzu signified the beginning of a new cycle. The cycle commenced with the calls for entries for the prize, published in national dailies and online news platforms on February the 21st. The prize is open to all Nigerian scientists as well as scientists from all over the world to submit their entries in finding solutions to malaria in line with this year's theme, Innovation on Malaria Control. Scientists can nominate themselves. Ha!
So I can nominate you. Are you a scientist?
They can nominate themselves, and in addition, a group research work can also be submitted. The prize money remains $100,000, and the theme for this year is Innovation on Malaria Control. With us in the studio this morning is the chairman of the advisory board, Professor Pt.1 Suzu. Good morning, Prof.
Good morning.
And of course, our friend is also here, the General Manager, External Relations, Nigeria LNG, Dr. Kudo Eresia Eke.
Good morning. Delighted to be here again.
Good to see you again. And good to hear that it's not just literature. Science has reawakened.
Yes, it has.
Yes. Professor. No, not Professor. Everyone is familiar with the Prize for Literature.
Yes.
Why the Prize for Science?
Well, it should actually be the other way around. You know, everyone should be familiar as far as Nigeria LNG is concerned with our propagation of the Nigeria Prize for Science, because we're a science-based
organization. Yes.
Organization.
Yes. Yes.
So, but it happens that the literature side seems to have taken the upper hand. They've run with it. Yeah. Science had a little bit of some handicaps, which is understandable. Of course, we all understand the paucity of science infrastructure in Nigeria and the kind of support that it has. So, you know, it's understandable that's a bit fledgling. But we are determined to move on. We're determined to excite the population in the area of science. We're determined to have them win this prize. We're determined to have them do something great for Nigeria. We're determined to have them solve problems that are germane to our country, typically Nigerian. And maybe Professor Susu will talk about the theme much later.
Before we get to that, let me ask you, but why science this year in particular?
Science?
Why this year? Why is it that you just said that this year in particular to focus on science?
No, it's always been there since 2004 when the prize was instituted. It just happened
and won by
Professor Susu, you know, because he won the very first prize. You know, it just happens that over a period of, over 10 years, we had just about 5 prize winners. So there was need to look back and to review and to see what better things we could do, how better we could excite the science community to be able to deliver on winning this prize. And of course, not just for winning the prize, but for doing something for Nigeria. So the prize is, if you like, a bait for scientists to do something for Nigeria. Yeah.
Okay.
Now, let me just say that Professor Susu was the first winner of the Nigeria Prize for Science and is a former assistant professor at Stanford University and University of Notre Dame. He's the chairman of the recently inaugurated Nigeria Prize for Science Advisory Board.
Yes.
So, Professor, let's look at the theme. And is it a coincidence that we're talking Malaria Day? And we're talking malaria.
No, it's not. Malaria is the highest killer of our people. The 2015 figures are about 500,000 malaria mortality rate in the world.
Is it increasing?
No, it's decreasing actually because of the insecticide treated nets that has served to reduce the mortality rate quite dramatically, but it's still very high, about 500,000. That doesn't look at morbidity figures, but in terms of mortality, people who die from malaria in 2015 is about 500,000. And Nigeria is about 150,000. So that's a huge figure.
Yes, it is. It is.
So when you are defining a health issue for the country, it's good to start with malaria. Children below 5, 40% of them are included in this group we're talking about, and women also 11%. So it's a real problem for Nigeria.
Interestingly, after this segment, we're going to talk malaria. And the question is, are we winning the war? When I saw that, the first question I asked myself is, how are we going to eradicate the Anopheles mosquito from the earth?
Well, there are all kinds of mosquitoes, but there are strategies, you know. You can't,
which is what this is aiming at.
Yes.
Strategies from scientists as to how we can fight malaria to a standstill.
There are strategies. You have the strategy of concentrating on the vector. That's the mosquito itself. The strategies for that involves sterilization of the male, because the male doesn't carry the parasite. It's the female that does. So if you sterilize the male, then nothing happens. There are no offsprings. So that's a way of handling that. But then you have to worry about